Well, here I am. It is night 3 of the Masterclass on fear. And I'm really excited to be here tonight for a specific reason. So I don't know if you saw before, but on the first night, which was 2 nights ago, I essentially read from this book and I was talking about fear. And I was talking about, I would read the book and you know, something would come up and I would talk about that piece of fear. So Devori's on, and I'm so glad, Devori, because I'm going to be talking about you tonight. So last night I was supposed to do night 2 on my masterclass about fear. And what happened was really interesting. Because I felt like the night before wasn't so good, I kept battling with myself. I went down to record night 2, and I was battling over and over with myself. You know, should I do night 2 or it was really bad? It was so funny because I actually took my computer. I was down in the basement. I took my computer. I closed it up. I said, I'm not doing that class. I walk upstairs. And then I come back downstairs, I open the computer and I said, all right, I'm going to do it. And then I closed it and I didn't do it. So, but here's where it starts to get interesting. So I end up not doing that class last night on fear because I was feeling the fear of myself, right? So this is great. So this morning, every day I have an accountability partner, and what we do is we read a chapter on persistence, and then when we're done reading that chapter, we read it together. We talk about different things, but one of the things that came up for me was I said, you know, I had this thought that just came up, and it was your fear is like a GPS. When the fear kicks in and you feel the fear, what happens is, you know, it makes you feel like, I said to him, when you feel that fear, it's like the GPS telling you to move forward and go through and actually act on that fear. And then we had this great conversation about it, and we were all excited. So meanwhile, I'm giving him some great advice, right? I'm telling him to use his fear as the GPS to push him through the fear to get to the other side. So after that, then I have a meeting with my sales. It's like a sales group. And we all support each other in growth and learning and taking ourselves to the next level. And there's a guy in our group named Ellie. And Ellie says, you know, he was talking about one of his struggles that he was having. So I said, Ellie, you know, I was just having a conversation in my last class about fear and it being like a GPS. So when you feel the fear, it's telling you just take a step forward, go forward and break through the fear, right? So I give Ellie this great piece of advice on fear. Again, even though 2 nights before I don't do what I was supposed to do because I was feeling fear myself. So then the best thing happens, and I know he's on the call and I know he's watching right now. Another person in that group knows and was in the masterclass 2 nights before. He was watching, and he says this great line. He says, so Mike, how did the masterclass go last night? And I knew that he knew that I didn't do it, but it was a nice way of saying it. So, you know, then I said, the fear got the best of me. And then we started talking about it, and everyone in the group could really resonate and understand what was happening. And the amazing thing is, and it's what Devori just said, is the advice that we give to others, if you really, really pay attention, that advice that we give is advice that we need to take ourselves 99.9% of the time. right? It's easy to dispense. It's easy to point outside and say, listen, you do this, you do that. But inside, we're the ones who need to do it. So now I want to tell you a couple stories about fear and fear that I've dealt with in the past, which is really interesting. When I was I think I was around 10 years old, I was at my friend's house and we were playing this game called Die. I know, what a game, right? I don't know how we came up with it. But the way that the game worked was we would run around the house, and when someone yelled die, you had to fake a dramatic death and go down to the ground. So we did it a few times. And then one time, as I'm running around, my friend yells die. I do a very dramatic death, and my head hits the point of a glass table. And I was bleeding everywhere. When I got up, there was just blood everywhere because it hit right over here where I have stitches. And this is a very vascular area, so blood was just pouring out. Now, obviously, I'm a kid. I was terrified. But what interestingly happened is my friend's father was a doctor, and he took us to, instead of going to the emergency room, we went to his office. And when we got to his office, it put me on the table, and he put something over my face so I couldn't see. Now, here is fear at its best, right? Because in our minds, we start picturing what is going to happen. Even though we don't know what's going to happen for sure, we start picturing it. So what did I do? I keep saying to the father, I said, am I going to need stitches? Am I going to need stitches? Because I was afraid he's going to give me a needle and then he's got to stitch it up and it's going to hurt. And I said, am I going to need stitches? And he says, I'm still looking, Mike, just hang in there. I'll let you know you're good. And I, like every few minutes, am I going to need stitches? Am I going to need stitches? And then finally, he takes the sheet off my head. And I said, well, am I going to need stitches? And he says, you've got 8 stitches. So the point to that is that entire time that I was on the table, I was so worried and so concerned about what was going to happen. And in the end, I didn't feel a thing. The only thing I felt was my own fear. So Will Smith says it best. If you've watched the YouTube video where Will Smith is talking about fear, he tells a great story about when he decided, he was sitting around with a group of friends and he decided that he was going to jump out of an airplane. And at the time, it sounded really cool until he got home and started to think about what that actually meant. So he talks about the thought process that goes on and all the fear that he was feeling prior to actually getting on the edge and jumping out of the plane. He was terrified. And then he said something very interesting. When he jumped out of the plane, he said that was actually the easiest part. Because when he went out and when he faced his fear, there was nothing to fear at that point. All the fear was the thoughts of what was going to happen, what potentially could happen. And that's what we do to ourselves. We come up with this story of what's going to happen, and we get ourselves all worked up and all afraid and all nervous. And then we end up either not doing something out of the fear, or in the end, when we actually do that thing, we realize that it wasn't so bad after all. So we have a comfort zone, right? If I just draw a little circle like that, that's our comfort zone. And when we take just a small step, when I ran the half marathon, I've used this example before. If I were to think about that marathon and think, oh my God, I'm going to go from here 13 miles, I mean, that was a daunting thought if I would have thought that. All I thought was, I've got music on, I'm with Yvette and another friend, and I'm just going to do one step at a time. And that's what I'm saying here with our comfort zone. Just take baby steps when you feel that fear. So here's going to be the 5-step process that I suggest that you do when you start to feel the fear. So step one is first listen and feel the fear. So you know, right, you start to automatically, you'll think of something that you're anticipating and the thought comes, and then you start to feel the fear. Or you're about to do something and you're like, I don't know if I should do that, and you feel the fear. That is like a GPS system which is telling us, if we can follow that and know, okay, this is what I actually have to do. I have to take a step towards that fear. So step one is to, again, recognize the fear when you start to feel it and know that that's a symbol for growth. Okay, step two, recognize that it's an indicator for growth, right? So instead of looking at the fear as a negative, which it's easy to do because you're feeling the fear, look at it as, here is an opportunity for me to grow and to take myself to a slightly bigger level, slightly outside of my comfort zone, and get to a place that I really need to be. Okay? Step three is that action. Take the action towards the fear. Anytime you've acted in the past, if you think about anything that you've been afraid of doing in the past, once you've actually done it, you feel amazing. It doesn't matter what the result is. It's the fact that you did what you were afraid of. It expands that comfort zone, and now all of a sudden you're operating at a completely different place. So, and step four is have fun. See, if we can make this process about having fun instead of just being so fearful about everything, we can look at it again as an opportunity to grow, to become a better person, to feel better, to know that when we do that thing we fear, we will feel unbelievably good afterwards. Even though initially we might feel a little bit of a pain, we look back and we remember the past, the time we stepped up to the edge of jumping out of the plane, and when we jumped, we were like, wow, this is incredible. I feel so good. I'm so glad I did this. That's what we need to do. And step five is look back at the fears that you faced in the past and analyze them, and analyze the current fear. So the fear that you just broke through, whether you broke through or you didn't break through, analyze it and see it for what it is. But if you did break through it, really get that feeling that, well, I was so worried the whole time about doing that thing, and then in the end, when I did it, I felt amazing. And again, that's the beauty of this process. So again, step one, listen and feel the fear. Know that it's there and know that it's an opportunity. Step two, recognize that it's indicating that you now have an opportunity to grow and to expand that comfort zone a little bit. Step three, act on the fear. Act on the fear. Whatever it is you're afraid of doing, just take steps in that direction. You don't have to do the whole thing. You don't have to run the whole marathon. Just take steps in that direction, and you will start to feel amazing, because everything that's outside of our comfort zone, when we get there, we feel incredible. And we can all look to past experiences to confirm that. Step four, have fun. Have fun in the process. Make it a game for yourself. If you make it a game, it's that much better. And then finally, step five is look back at what you just went through, the fear that you broke through, the comfort zone that you expanded, and really take in that lesson that I was so scared to do it, but it really wasn't that bad after all, so that the next time you face whatever fear it is that you're about to come up against, it probably won't be as bad, because the more references that you create, that changes your belief about fear, because you're creating a new belief with it. Think of a belief, right? If you have a table and you have 4 legs that support the table itself is the belief, right? And those support systems are different events that happen that support that belief. As we replace the legs on the table, with different events, then our belief itself will change because now it's supported by completely different events. So I appreciate you being here tonight and being a part of this masterclass on fear. While I thought it was going to go one completely different way, I was going to read from a book and kind of share some experiences from the book. What ended up happening was actually magical because it gave me an ability first to deal with my own fear, to share it with all of you, and to help us all learn and grow from that thing we call fear, which we all think is so scary. So I appreciate you. I thank you for that. And the one last thing that I want to say is, it is absolutely perfect that I did not do last night what I was supposed to do, which was that other class on fear, because what it did was it led me to the perfect place, which was my earlier conversations with my accountability partner in the sales group to get me to look at what I really was doing, which was giving advice to everyone else instead of looking at that advice I was giving and saying, hey, you know what? I really need to face my own fear, and I really need to listen to my own advice that I'm giving out to everyone else. So I really appreciate having the ability and platform to share this with you. If this resonated with you, if you got anything from it, just comment below and say, acknowledge that you do deal with fear and something that you've been fearful of, and maybe you'll take one baby step in the direction to help break through your fear and to expand that comfort zone and become, the person that you already are. So that's all. I appreciate all of you. Oh, one last thing, right? A lot of times I don't do this because I don't want you to think that I'm doing, this class for a specific reason, but I actually am. One of the things that I've done was I got certified from Bob Proctor, who is, to be just an amazing guy. I did a seminar when I was at a place in my life where I had just gotten divorced, I had just lost my job, and I had to move out of my house. The three huge, biggest stressors that you could possibly imagine all at once, I suffered from all of them at one time. And I found this course, and I did this course, and it literally changed my life. It changed my life so much so that I decided at that point that I was going to get a certification and be able to teach that to other people, because that's what I love doing. Not only do I love helping myself, which I do love to do, I love learning and growing, I love helping other people. That's my favorite thing to do. And what I've realized in helping other people, I'm actually learning things for myself at the same time anyway. But what I wanted to say was, available to everyone is a complimentary consultation. And I just want to explain to you what that is. We're going to sit down, you and I, and all we're going to do is have a conversation. I'm not going to sell you anything. I'm not going to ask you to buy anything. We're just going to talk. And I'm going to ask you questions, and I'm going to learn about you, and I'm going to see what kind of makes you tick. And it's similar to going to the doctor the first time you go to a doctor and he does a medical history. He needs to do that medical history so that he knows how to treat you and how to treat your symptoms. It's the same thing with me. We're gonna talk. I'm gonna learn all about you, and then I'm gonna look to my arsenal of tools, and I'm gonna use those tools potentially to help you break through your issues. So that's it. If you're interested in getting together and having that consultation, just reach out to me. Shoot me a direct message in the Facebook, in Facebook, and we'll set up a time that works for both of us, and we'll just get together and talk. That's it. Devori, Ernesto, everyone else that's on here, there's a decent amount of people. I appreciate all of you, and I thank you. And I just say to you this, I'll leave you with this. The next time you're feeling the fear, just take a step in the direction and go through it. Break through it. That's it. Thanks for being here tonight, and I wish you only the best always.